Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I made a video called Fat Acceptance TikTok Cringe and you guys really enjoyed it. And from that video I got some comments that really tickled me and made me realize how much people don't understand the perspective of those who question the fat acceptance movement, and it made me want to do this video, part 2, where I re-engage with the content and also respond to some comments that I got. More specifically, there's one comment that inspired this video. I made a short to my long form fat acceptance TikTok cringe video and someone commented. They were like, see, the thing is, just because a person is above the average weight doesn't mean they are a glutton. There are numerous medical conditions and diagnostic that can cause weight gain. Also, as long as a person loves themselves, they are their optimal self. And calling someone fat is shaming them. I'm Jamaican. I've said this in probably almost every video I've made on my channel. I come from a culture where people get shamed. You get shame. Bring shame. Don't. I'm sorry. I come from a culture where people do get shamed. I'm not saying it's justified and it's okay to shame people, but I do think that a little bit of shame is okay sometimes. I completely understand the perspective of this individual, of course. Yes, pre-existing condition can cause someone to be fat or gain weight quickly, easily, all these things. But everyone has fat, and some people just have an excess of it. And yes, if you have a pre-existing condition that makes you fat, sometimes your lifestyle can exacerbate that thing and make you more fat. Sometimes the food that you consume that makes you fat, because eating a burger from McDonald's every day is gonna make you fat, especially if you're not hitting the gym, because that food is not real. There's no sustenance in that. After you eat that, you're gonna be hungry, and then what are you gonna do? Have another Big Mac? And I stop, okay? Anyways, recently there have been lots of videos online talking about how people from the body positive fat acceptance movement are dying. And before that, about a year ago, a video was made by Michelle McDaniel. Love her. She calls it Fat Activists Are Dying. Health in every size proven wrong again. This is not something new. People have been dying because of the fatness and how it affects their body, how it affects their hearts all the time. I'm not saying that, if you're fat, you're worse than someone who's skinny. I think to be on the extremes on this scale can be dangerous, Not for shit. I've been on the other side where I was so freaking stressed out where I got so skinny and I didn't realize and I freaking lost my hair. These things are real. It's not a joke, okay? If you're fat, then there's a lot of fat around your heart, and then it makes your life short because the pressure on your heart becomes intense. Let's get into the video. I think this is a really good video to engage with as a part 2 to my fat acceptance TikTok cringe.
The fat acceptance movement, also known as fat pride, fat empowerment, and fat activism, is a social movement which seeks to eliminate the social stigma of fatness from social attitudes by pointing out the social obstacles which are faced by fat people to the general public. While many people in this group have determined and spread through social media that obesity is not as bad as we have always thought, or that science has proven, many have embraced the word fat and deemed the word obese to now be a slur. Many won't even say the word in their home.
Said to me, well, have you eaten? And I said, yeah, I had some pizza earlier. And they said, you need to eat something a bit more healthy. Now, there are a few words that I don't allow when somebody comes into my house, and healthy is one of them.
I saw a video recently. It was Oprah talking about her weight journey. Oprah, as we know, is one of the richest black women in the world, right? And she's gone through different stages where she's lost weight, gained weight, all that stuff. It's natural. The body fluctuates all the time. And sometimes, again, depending on the food that you consume, it fluctuates more than other times, right? Oprah is a binge eater, which means that she can consume a lot of food in a short amount of time for weeks on end, okay? Which means she gains a lot of weight in a short amount of time, and then everyone's like, whoa, you just lost all that weight. How did you gain it again, right? These things happen. I'm not saying that, again, being fat is wrong. Oprah spoke about willpower. She didn't want to take the easy way out when it came down to dieting, because easy way out meaning like medication, because she felt like that wasn't it. It's going to be a fast way to lose weight, and she wanted it to be more consistent lifestyle habit. Completely understand that. And I think a lot of times when people who are fat are called fat, not from oh my god, you're fat, like go girl, they feel shame. As I mentioned again, sometimes a little bit of shame is normal. This person just talked about how health is not a language that they have in their household. I'm pretty sure if you feed your kid a bunch of junk food all the time, that's basically abuse. It's abuse. You want to make sure your kid gets some vegetable. Okay, there's zinc, there's fiber, there's potassium, all that stuff. You're not getting that stuff from your pizza and your french fries and your McDonald's. It's just not happening. And for someone to be like, oh yeah, I just had like pizza. Okay. Cool. And then for somebody else to be like, you want to have something else, like some greens, and then be like, what are you talking about? You're shaming me. No, that's them bringing to the table that nutrition is a thing, and fast food is not the most nutritional thing. Okay?
In fact, the NAAFA, the National Association to Advance Fat Acceptance, which was started by a white man who actually had a fetish for oversized women and started the group to bring acceptance to him and his in hopes less people would make fun of him for his choice of women. Well, in 2022, it's ran by women, fat women. Let me just read a little bit of their philosophy. The NAAFA have contested society's stubborn generalization that associates fatness with disease and poor health outcomes, and push back against the assumption that fat people have little regard for themselves or their own well-being. They argue that thinking about obesity as a disease or medical risk, such as having severe effects from COVID-19, contributes to the stigma because it positions larger bodies as drains on an already taxed healthcare system. To sum that up, they don't like that the numbers show, factual numbers by the way, show that being obese causes taxpayers more money. They also do not like that fatness or obesity is connected to disease and poor health because it makes them feel bad.
Not everyone who is fat is obese, right? As a person in my comments said, sometimes you can be fat because of pre-existing conditions, right? I feel like there's levels to fatness. You could be 200 something pound in a certain like BMI and be not fat, while like somebody else in a different BMI is like fat, practically overweight. It all depends. And I feel like when you have a professional who's able to consult with you from a biological perspective and a nutritional perspective, you're able to come to terms with what is actually happening with your body and not just like compare yourself to other people or feel shame from other people calling you or seeing you in a certain way. Like, we all have eyes. Our eyes don't lie. Like, I mean, sometimes people's eyes lie because they're a bit delusional or they just have dysphoria. These things are real. But all I'm saying is it's better to live in truth than lie in denial, because you are fat. The hell?
Many times of the fat activists on TikTok saying the word obese causes harm, but interestingly enough, they never talk about the harm that obesity causes. I mean, how could they? Many of them do not even believe in science when it proves obesity comes with risks. Burgess Hovar, who I'm making a video of later, has said if science does not satisfy over 60% of the population who are obese, then we should just boot it out the window. This was said in her interview with Ulta Beauty, titled The Beauty of Fatness. We now have doctors that are telling us that obesity is just a myth and has absolutely no health risks. We have doctors who write books titled Health at every size, where they say obesity can be completely healthy. Bloggers saying there is no such thing as healthy food, everything's created equal, and we should never let these white males stop us from living our lives with their racial BMI chart. Well, do you know what is starting to bring some of these fat activists down? No, it's not the use of the word obesity, it's heart attacks and heart complications. Yes, and many of these fat activists are staying silent.
Heart attacks, all these things can happen at both sides of the spectrum, when you're super skinny and when you're obese, or a bit more on the fatter side. And that's because it just puts a strain on your heart. It's like stress. When you get stressed out, your body just begins to fail, and when you have a lot of fat, your organs are doing overtime, and they're not even getting paid. Like, they're not getting paid to do overtime, and they're doing overtime, and they're exhausted, and then your heart gets filled with plaque, and it's just a donezo. It's a real thing. It doesn't just happen to fat people, but it often happens to fat people more because of the excess fat.
Other way, and continuing to perpetuate this disgusting movement started by men that wanted to get their hard, that obesity is perfectly healthy. And honestly, it pisses me off. I will be focusing on 2 women that were part of this movement of we should just accept obesity. 2 women that I feel glorified it, at least one glorified it and changed. And 2 women who are now sadly no longer with us. 2 women that express their opinions in different ways, but I have different opinions on each one. Let's start. If you ever go down the weird lane of fat talk on TikTok, you will find there are many very young fat talkers who are dancing around expressing how obesity has not hindered their life at all, and they can do anything a skinny girl can do.
If you're a fat person who is not trying to lose weight, I love you. Keep it up.
And why is that? Because the older ones are either hurting and can't get up, or dead. Because as you age and stay obese, the issues you will have come on pretty hard and thick. I want to start with the oldest fat activist who sadly left this earth at the age of 42, Kat Pazet.
Told about obesity, we're in the middle of an epidemic, extra body weight causes, heart problems, diabetes. What do you say to that?
I think it does definitely fly in the face of what most of us tend to believe and what our common sense maybe even tells us. But I think that the science isn't actually as clear-cut as we like to believe, and there's not really quite a consensus yet about the real relationship between weight and health.
Fat studies scholar at Massey University in Palmerston North. Her research and activism attracted controversy and, in these people's opinions, bullying from people who would constantly say, stop spreading the message that obesity is a positive condition, but she wouldn't listen. Steven Crowder, a political commentator mostly known as the Change My Mind guy, where he sets up a booth and asks people to change his mind about controversial topics, actually infiltrated a fat.
Yes, I am pro pineapple on pizza. It tastes freaking great. It's like a sweet and salty. I just love pineapples. And I love pizza. And I'm not fat. And pineapple goes on pizza.
Studies conference at Massey University. His experiment was to see if these people are so accepting to everything stupid. He decided to write a paper, say a few trigger words, and hopefully be accepted in this community. So he dressed up in a fat suit, slapped on a wig, and wrote a bogus paper to hopefully be accepted into the Fat Studies conference, based on a poorly written, full of trigger words paper. And of course, he had to have the Pikachu cup and the Trump/Pence must go ornaments in the back to really sell to them and gain their acceptance. And he did. They absolutely loved his video essay.
And I knew that largely because of my fat, I was guaranteed at least a certain amount of space. You may believe, wrongly as many people do, that fat is a threat to your life. But I would argue that in many ways, it may save your life. I used to feel guilty about eating certain foods or drinking certain soft drinks, but I don't. I don't anymore. Every scoop of Ben & Jerry's, or whatever your preferred food may be, I would like to see it restructured, and it should be seen as an act of resistance, not only against homophobia, but against fat phobia.
And guess whose Fat Studies conference this was? That's right, Kat Pazet, the woman who would rather have people feel beautiful than know the realities of obesity. A woman who dedicated her whole career to keep people under the impression.
This guy. I feel like all this guy has just proved is that misery likes company. Misery likes company. if you're a fat person who is literally like debilitated, you can't walk, your knees fucking hurt, all these things, why would you want someone to be in that pain as you, you know? You wouldn't want that. You would convince them to choose differently. There are shows online, what is it, like My 600 Pound Life, super skinny versus super fat, where like fat people in the UK meet fat people in America, and they typically, the fat people are having a lot of health concerns, having a lot of health issues, are trying to convince the fat people who don't have these concerns to choose differently. And now they're fat people in the fat acceptance movement who are like, eat whatever you want, eat up, eat up, eat up, eat up, eat up. What is this, a mukbang? Like, what? Like, this is not okay at all. It's not okay. And you might think I'm gonna go against my point, but I'm actually someone, like, I love seeing human bodies. I love seeing, you know, a strong fit woman, a strong fit man, or ripped abs, or you know, some muscles on the arm, all that good stuff. But I'm also someone who loves to see how the body can be pushed to the other side, the other extreme. So yes, I do eat up my 600 pound life and all these other stuff, because I think that the body is such a beautiful specimen, and the fact that we can push ourselves to these different extremes is so beautiful. But one thing about it though, you ain't never seen a fat person running a sprint. Okay?
Obesity is a good thing. A few weeks later, after Crowder's show aired, Dr. Pausé passed away. They did not release the cause of death, but they said medical condition, which many are theorizing that it was an obese-related issue, but they don't want the exact cause getting out because of the work that she did, and many people on the internet can be ruthless. And if it was someone else who was just minding their own business and being fat who passed away, I would understand that. And you might be thinking that this is a very insensitive video, but I can't feel sorry for someone who promoted obesity but then dies at a pretty young age from it.
One thing that's really in vogue in the literature right now is we see a lot of articles about what they call the obesity paradox. And this is research that's finding that obese people, and even morbidly obese people, have just as good of health, or sometimes even better health, than people who are in the healthy weight ranges.
I'm not saying that if you're fat, you can't be fit. There are lots of fat people who are doing like some like yoga, and like they can do their splits, their headstands, you know, all these fancy stuff. Like, I feel like being fit is about being able to handle your weight, right? And being able to, like, how do I say, be strong. You know, fat people can be strong, and then sometimes fat people are weak, and skinny people can be strong, and sometimes skinny people are weak because they don't develop the strength and conditioning they need to not only be able to carry themselves, but also potentially a heavy object.
I do feel sorry for the people who loved her because she seemed to be loved by many. It's too bad that she decided to be so stubborn when it comes to obesity and protecting her feelings that she died from the condition that she said was so beautiful and harmless. Allegedly, of course. I also want to remind anyone that is saying, well, she's passed away, we shouldn't talk about her. I disagree. We should. Because this is the end result of thinking you are untouchable. That science is not real because it hurts your feelings, and just because you feel great at 20 and you're 300 pounds doesn't mean it will stay that way. So with that being said, rest in peace, Dr. Pausé. The second woman I wanted to talk about that was all things body positive and fat positive is Jamie Lopez. Jamie Lopez weighed around 840 pounds. She was a total glamour chick. Nails, hips, heels, hair, honey.
Look,
loved femininity, loved getting her nails done. Well, one day she went into a nail salon and broke the chair. She was humiliated, and they told her, sorry, we can't do your nails here. You can't come back when you're this size. She felt horrible about this and started her own nail salon for morbidly obese women who wanted a safe place to get their nails done where they won't break chairs. Her career took off. She even scored a show on Super Size Salon on WeTV.
Are you ready to go? And why do you look like you about to just throw up everywhere?
Because I'm terrified, Shannon. I haven't left the house in 2 years. And I just learned to walk again.
Interesting. This person just said, like, they haven't left their house in, like, so long. I feel like that's a little sign, being like, perhaps they need some mental help. not just physical, but some mental help. Like they need someone to talk to, they need a support system, someone to be there for them, someone to invite them to see the world in a larger perspective, to leave their bubble, to go out into society and just like be their beautiful self. Like a lot of people on earth in this world have so much talent, and sometimes when it's hidden behind your fatness, and then that fatness feels like shame, a lot of your talent goes unnoticed. And I never want that for anyone, even if you're fat, and if you're skinny, if you're disabled, whatever the case may be. I want you to shine bright and just for everyone to see you, and for this person to be like they haven't left their house in a while, they are potentially depressed, right? I've been there where I'm like, I can't even fucking leave my bed, like I don't want to go outside, like this is not okay. Like many of you may relate to this, but it's just again to say that sometimes when you are not able to take care of yourself, you're not able to choose differently for yourself, you're not able to make certain decisions for yourself, it just goes back to your mental health. It doesn't just happen to fat people, it happens to everyone. But a lot of times when you're depressed, when you're not choosing the best for yourself, you make bad decisions, like eating McDonald's every day, like eating burger for breakfast, even a muffin for breakfast, eating gummies for breakfast. These things are not nutritional in the long term. Yes, they will taste good, but when that shit hits your stomach by 12 o'clock, you're gonna be like, what the hell, like I'm finna pass the hell out because this ain't doing nothing for you. It's not doing anything for you. You can feel the difference when you eat nutritional food versus when you eat food that is just not like filled with nutrition. When you eat food that's like fast food, unhealthy, you feel tired. You're supposed to feel tired because it didn't bring anything to your body. When you eat food that's like nutritional, you feel energized. Your body's like, woo, like you're not weighed down like a brick. This is a real thing, and I just don't get why people just aren't seeing this. And again, it's not a shame, but sometimes you just need a little bit of shame.
I know that she was probably a bit insecure, and can you blame her? She obviously gets constantly bullied over the internet, but Jamie really turned her life around. She lost almost a whole Tammy Slayton, and I was extremely proud of her when I saw that, and had a huge amount of respect for her to just message me and apologize. She put in so much hard work, and I was so happy to see that she was getting a handle on this horrible condition called obesity, morbid obesity for her. I would have never guessed that she would be the one that passed away, and Tammy Slayton is still going strong. I am in literal shock about this, but I really shouldn't be. She was morbidly obese for years. She couldn't even stand for the opening of her salon, and it really just angers me that there's people out here manipulating minds of people who have an obvious food addiction to not worry about being obese and how beautiful it is.
Food addiction is one of the craziest types of addiction, because we eat food to live, or is it the other way around? We need food, we need sustenance to live, to survive. We don't need as much food as food addicts eat, but we do need food, especially good food. Good food serves us well in the long term. That's why we have doctors who talk about alkaline diets, the importance of eating food that actually have seeds in it. Seed is almost like your monthly egg that cis or women have, right? It's what we fertilize to produce new life. If there's no seed, there can be no option to create new life naturally, right? And I feel like with food addiction, you get so turned on by the deliciousness of all the fake stuff that's in the food. It's hitting all the trigger points in your brain, but it's really not hitting the trigger points in your stomach, in your heart, and the rest of your body, which is why you continue to crave food, because it's just not doing what it's supposed to do. And this can be a very dangerous thing. It's like alcoholics. After a while, like, you need more. My mechanic was telling me about an alcoholic who basically doesn't eat because if he eats, he can't feel the alcohol effects, so he doesn't eat and just drink so he can feel the effects of the alcohol. That's addiction. When you choose to do the wrong thing because it feels good to you.
Go on, everyone, keep eating. I was just thinking to myself also that maybe, just maybe, if Jamie and others weren't getting positive reinforcement for their horrible behaviors toward food, she could have lost weight maybe sooner. Not to mention the men that help feed this mentality that obesity is beautiful and the bigger the better. That's right, she used to hang out with Tammy Slayton's ex-boyfriend, the King, whose slogan is the bigger the better. I'm not making excuses for her. Everyone has a choice to step away. But the movement of love yourself the way you are, obesity is nothing to be scared of, and men who glorify it for their own benefit definitely doesn't help someone who's addicted to food and overeating or binging. It just saddens me that she actually was doing the work and did so much work, but it wasn't enough. Sources close to Lopez tell us she'd been hospitalized in Las Vegas and then died over the weekend as a result of heart complications. I really do mean rest in peace, Jamie, and I feel for her family. She really seemed like a good person, and I'm so upset that I didn't make that video showing her hard work when she was still alive. I truly hope that more people in this community see that obesity is nothing to be happy about. It is not an empowering thing to eat yourself to death.
Eating yourself to death. Eating yourself to death. Everything in moderation. Everything in moderation. You can have your alcohol in moderation, your food in moderation, everything in moderation. Once you begin to get out of moderation, you are putting a stress on your body, on your soul, on just everything, right? No one likes to hear the truth about themselves. And if you're getting upset that I'm like, fat acceptance can be quite dangerous, then you are actually a part of the problem, okay? You're actually part of the problem. Listen, if you get on that sale and you see a number that's very, very high, perhaps like 700, 600, 500, I would question myself. If you're walking down those stairs and, you know, you're struggling, I'd question myself. Hell, I just walked up the stairs earlier and I was struggling and I questioned myself. I said, Jesus Christ, I need to do something about that, okay? It's a real thing. We all sometimes need to just do something about the things that are happening. People who are skinny, people who are fat, people who are whatever side can be unhealthy, okay? These things aren't always visible, but unfortunately, when you're fat, obese, it is a bit more visible sometimes, especially when you're walking around with the cane. Either way, being fat, love yourself. Being skinny, love yourself. But we cannot deny the concerns, the health concerns at hand. If you like this video, like this video. If you're fat and you love yourself, like this video and leave a comment. Tell me why you love yourself. If you're skinny and love yourself, like this video and tell me why you love yourself, okay? Everyone deserves love. It doesn't matter. Love at all sizes. Bye.